Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks again for joining us on SketchUp. We are here with some really cool guys. Can't wait to talk to them. We've got Deryl Skelton, Steve Leialoha, Topper Helmers. They all got great stories, and I'm can't wait to dive into this. So don't go away. We'll be right back after this break. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks again for coming up on this exciting Thursday. We have got a lineup for you today with Deryl Skelton, Steve Leialoha, and Topper Helmers. And we'll be getting to them in a moment. Mog is here. She will be here very shortly. She is trying to help Steve get over some issues. And hopefully they'll be able to get that worked out. It just came from an amazing show. We did Fan Expo Anaheim. You're going to hear a lot of things about that show, but for us, it was a fantastic show. Can't wait to go back. I already told them that sign us up automatically. We'll be back there next year. All right. So today we have these fantastic guys with us, and starting with Topper. He's gonna do a piece. Look at the room that Topper is in there. He's gonna be doing a piece, a Savage Land Rogue with a T-Rex on 11 by 17, and the starting bid is a penny. We know that ain't gonna last. And look how much he's got done already. Okay, that's incredible. So, and we're going to take a further look at that as well. We also have Deryl Skelton, okay, and he's coming up today with two pieces, and I think I've seen the wrap cover, but let's see the Hulk first. Hulk headpiece there, okay, and that is, let's see, you wanted was it 25 for that? 25, okay. And now the other piece, I think this is the piece I saw you working on at the show, which was coming out really beautiful. There you go. Full Fantastic Four double page spread on a sketch cover, fully colored, with the Hulk in the mix there. $500 is the asking price on that. That is a super deal. If that was Mog's piece, that would be way over that. So you're getting a sweet deal at that price there. Okay, and Mog, as you can see in part of the screen, she's going to be working on a Jade Mortal Kombat piece on a Magica Order cover. So she's actually got something done. Starting bid on that is $200. So if you guys want any of that, do so in the comments. And that'll get you them on the board. Is that a bid, Rook piece? 1 cent for it? Yeah, he's asking 1 cent as the beginning bid, but you know that ain't gonna last. So if you want that, go ahead and put that in the comments, and that'll get it started. Yeah, okay, 1 cent on the board for Rook piece.
I can retire.
Okay, now just to remind everybody, our bids, that was the starting bid for that, okay, but our bids once they get going are in $5 increments, okay. And so how is everybody doing?
I'm
okay, Mike Aswell puts in 11:11. Okay. Way to work the 1 cent penny in there, 11:11. Okay. Just so I don't have to work as hard, I'll bid $50 on Topper. And the producer comes in with a $50 bid. Okay, looks like this is going. Steve House of Caleco puts in, that's 1 penny for the art, $2.50 for his thoughts. Okay. Steve is in the house there. Okay. So we are standing at $50 on that so far. That still ain't gonna last. And we're talking about an 11 by 17 piece there. Yeah, I don't think that's a bid. I think Stevie B was just announcing his thoughts. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. All right, let's get to the show here going. All right, how are you guys doing today? Topper, Daryl?
It was just hot here. That's all.
Is it what kind of how hot is it getting over there?
Mid 90s, but it feels like, with the humidity, it feels like it's low hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. It just doesn't feel like you can cool off.
Oh wow, you guys are getting up there already. Okay, because we're still in the high 80s. I'm actually looking forward to it this week, hitting 94. It's going to be 91 tomorrow, and I really would like it to warm up so my lazy bones can get up there.
Yeah, Vegas. You factor in the wind chill, and it's in the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little bit unusual, right, for Vegas, especially we're in June already, guys. We should be feeling this heat.
Things bounce around.
We're in July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Even worse. That's right. We're in July now.
yeah, and I'm going to be in Nebraska on the 11th. I'm going to be in a dojo. I went to high school with a guy, Jim Rosenbach, who ended up being very big in the martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And he promised me when I was a senior, if I went into the comic book industry, he would buy everything I did just to support me. And he did. So to support him, he's going to be having a sports memorabilia, comic book, toy thing going on in his dojo. So I'm going there on the 11th. And then the following week, I'll be in Council Bluffs, Iowa at OCON, the 10th convention in that area.
Uh-huh. Nice. This is the big month for the con season because of San Diego Comic Con is in about 3 weeks coming down the line. We don't do that show, so we're out of the run for that. Are you going to be there at that show, Daryl?
No, we went for a number of years, and I love being there, and I've got a fairly decent following there. The problem is it's just getting to be priced out of existence for, if you're going to go there and stay there for the entire show. It used to be worth it to even just break even, but I don't know. It's just kind of turned into a thing that doesn't seem to emphasize comics as much, I think, as it does pop culture in general. And
Right.
so I just find it's kind of expensive to stay there.
Okay. Yeah, that is going to be a problem for some people there because the prices go way up, and if you don't book early, lodging becomes a problem. It's hard to find a place that's affordable that you can stay at during that weekend, and then dealing with the traffic. If you're going to drive there, that's a problem. Okay. So for us, I don't like doing it because on top of all those problems. Hey there, Steve.
All right.
I knew we would work that out. Great to have you on the show.
The miracle of modern technology.
I know, isn't it? Yeah, but I'm lucky. I have Mog. She actually handles all our tech issues, just like she did yours.
Finally.
And I knew she would.
You know what? No, Steve figured it out himself. He didn't need me.
Oh, you're a great help. Much appreciated.
I'm gonna need a hotline to you now, in case I have any tech issues, so I can call you and have you work those out for me. But anyway, we're talking about like San Diego. Will you be there this year, Steve?
No, I won't be there this year. It's actually the first year I won't be there.
Oh, okay.
I've done it. I've done it every year. Excuse me. Let me just take something to drink.
Is there a particular reason why you won't be there this year?
It's just becoming so expensive and challenging to get hotel rooms, and I know you know the drill, but
Yeah.
I've done 54 of them over the years. I mean, the first one I went to was in 1971 as a young fanboy, and when I started working professionally, I kept at it. So then it became really useful for promoting my stuff and seeing friends and so on. Last year, I went last year, but I didn't have a table. But this is the first year that I'm actually not going. It'd be nice to go, but it's so complicated, as everybody knows.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to, because we don't do it either. Okay, and
I can
even
understand
though,
that.
yeah, it's you know what, even though we have a place to stay, right,
That helps a lot.
yeah, and we, you can get the half table there for free in Artist Alley. I would prefer to get our own table, but even with all that, even after you work out all that, you got to deal with getting in, getting out every day, and then where are you going to eat after that if you don't have anything ready, and nothing close
Well,
by.
there are a lot of great places to eat, I must say, but
You're right.
it's a
Can you
challenge.
get in? Yeah, that's the problem, and it's just too much of a hassle, and that's the reason why we don't do it. I know it. Everybody says you can make money there. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, but do I want to deal with all?
Didn't you guys just do Anaheim?
Yeah, we just did it. We did Anaheim, and
That's sort of like a mini San Diego.
yeah, well, all the shows here in LA are kind of like a mini San Diego. You got WonderCon, the sister
Yes.
to San Diego, and then you've got LA Comic Con, right?
Yes,
And then you
yes.
have all these other cons. You got Comic Con Revolution in Ontario. You've got Long Beach Comic Con, which has a new showrunner for the last 2 years now. They're trying to build that back up.
I've always heard those were nice.
Yeah, and then there's all these other small shows going on as well. That's another reason why I don't want to really do too many LA shows, because what's the point? You're just going to be seeing the same people all over again at each of those cons, and they're not going to buy from you at every con. So why not just concentrate it in one area? They can all meet you there and get what they want.
Careful about wearing out your welcome.
that too.
That's so true.
That is true. That is true too. So we do try to keep that in mind and see who we're good with and who we're not. That's something that does have to be addressed.
Oh, one thing I was wondering is,
San Diego or New York.
where do you guys call home base? Where do you actually live?
We're actually in the LA area.
Okay.
Yeah, not too far, but as far as like our real homes go, Hawaii is still my home. That
at least conceptually.
Yeah, that'll never change. If I had a chance to go back there and money was not a problem, that's where I would be.
Yes, yes. So were you on Oahu?
Yeah, I was on Oahu. You were living in
I was
Hawaii,
born and raised in San Francisco, but I have many cousins on Oahu and the Big Island. So
yes, we know some of them.
Yes.
A couple of them are in the industry.
Yes.
So it is, and that's what makes it even more special to have you on the show, Steve, because of that. Now, in the 70s, or the 80s, you were living in Hawaii Kai. Is that right?
No. I always lived in San Francisco, but
okay.
I made it a point to try to get to Hawaii at least once a year and visit cousins and lie on the beach. I drew a couple of issues of Spider-Woman while
Mm-hmm.
sitting on the lawn at my auntie's house in Nanakuli. So that was as close as I got to actually living in Hawaii.
Okay.
But it's a real challenge working on comics in Hawaii because I must admit, I really just wanted to hit the beach and do as little as possible. So,
And if you're in Nanakuli, you're pretty close to the beach.
oh,
Okay.
I was literally 2 blocks from the beach.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that area. So I grew up in Eva Beach, so not too far away from there.
Yes,
And
yes.
same thing. I wasn't as close to the beach as you, but I was actually pretty close, where I did spend a lot of time at the beach doing all kinds of things. And so that's why I'm still kind of like an ocean boy, beach boy. Mog has seen me swimming in the water. She says I swim like an otter because I'll twirl and all that kind of stuff around her and stuff.
Yeah, my cousins are like that. I don't swim that well. My dad was a great swimmer, but you know, the water here where I live is freezing, and you really don't want to go in. So
Yeah. I have been in those waters because I am a certified diver as well. So I've dove around Frisco and Monterey Bay, and yeah, water's cold.
it is cold.
Very cold.
They're actually there's ocean currents that come down from Alaska.
Yes, right.
And they usually get as far as Monterey and then head out into the Pacific. So
right.
It's always warmer south of Monterey.
It's okay, but it's still cold though.
Yes,
I can tell you that I've gone around like the Santa Rosa Islands, and even then it's cold.
You may put a prison there.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So Stevie was asking,
actual questions.
Which show is harder to do, San Diego or New York? Do you have an opinion on that?
I haven't done New York in a long time, and I've never done the one that everyone talks about. I've been a little reluctant to even try that one. So I must admit, nobody I know says they like it. So it's
okay.
Nothing against it since I haven't actually experienced it myself. But well, I was going to San Diego since it started, which was like 200 people. So it's a very tiny convention, and just I think of it like lobsters being in a heated pot. You don't realize how challenging it is until it's too late. So going from 200 people to, I don't know, 150,000 people.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I remember my first time. It was in that convention in that little hotel, and
the El Cortez.
Yes.
If
there was 200 people there, it was a lot.
Yes, and you got to meet all of the pro guests, and most of them were friendly.
Yeah.
Some of them were odd, but sitting around a pool chatting with Jack Kirby was always pretty amazing. So.
Yeah. The first time I was there was in '85. Okay, but in the '70s, growing up, I was like super jealous of living in Hawaii, growing up there, flipping through the comics, and I'm seeing they have a Comic Con, and I can't get to it. I'm only like 13 years old, and you're seeing these pictures of Wendy T dressed up as Red Sonja, and I'm just a young guy here.
I can see the appeal in that. I mean, I was considerably older, and I was certainly in favor of it. So.
Oh yeah. But back then too. Okay, you got to picture this. This is in Hawaii. There was hardly in the early '70s. There really wasn't any real comic book shops. Okay,
there was
towards the end of the 70s, yeah, then we started seeing more. But in the early 70s, like 71, 72, 73, I tried looking. I couldn't really find any. There was, I think, one of the first ones that came up was, I don't know if you went to this, was Parker Comics in Pearl City. And that when I found that, man, was I ecstatic, because he operated like a real comic book shop, getting his books in. I think at that time they would come in on Thursdays. And so I couldn't wait for the weekend just to hit the shop, because that beat getting it from the drugstore off the racks where they were all bent and everything.
Yes, yes. So I remember I did a store signing, I think it was in the mid 80s, and it was a shop that was, I think of as like at the edge of Ala Moana.
Jellies.
It must have been that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was Jellies. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, a lot of artists did signings there.
yeah,
I met
yeah.
the first artist there. Well, actually, no, I didn't meet him. Actually, my dad did, and that was what's his name? The guy. God, I'm missing it. The guy who did the Electra series miniseries.
Oh, Frank Miller?
No, not Frank Miller.
Bill Sienkiewicz?
Bill Sienkiewicz. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I was pissed off because I was working, and they were sending me to the mainland to do some work up there, and so I asked my dad to go.
So he went for you.
He went there for me. He was the last one in line before they cut it off, and he had a very good time talking to Bill, and yeah, my dad was like really impressed. Before that, he was kind of pissed off that I was getting into comics. Thought that was a waste of money, waste of time whatsoever. But after that meeting, it changed around. So he started supporting me.
Bill was a good person to start with.
Dad,
So.
yes. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to him about that and kind of relive that moment with him. But I hope to rectify that at some point.
He does do a lot of conventions, so.
Yeah. We still see his name. I still see him. It's just a matter of just like trying to get around to seeing everybody.
Yeah, that's a real challenge. I mean, as much as I like Heroes Con, there are so many people I didn't even see, much less get a chance to talk to. So, but you do what you can. There's only so many minutes in a day.
Right. Yeah, and Heroes is exactly the one that comes to mind as well.
Yes.
We got to see Bo Hampton and
yes.
Howard Mackey, which we were happy to see because of the health issues that he's had. But we didn't get around to seeing a lot of people. Top of my list was like you and Charles West, and we didn't get around to it because you were way on the other side of the room and said, "Oh man,
it's a big room." Yes, people are very spread out.
Yep.
So.
In the late '80s, I was at Lynn Peterson's comic shop.
Yes.
And you were there.
Okay.
I'm sure you don't remember me, but I had just started. Earlier, I was with the LA Times Syndicate doing the Dallas comic strip. But I do remember
your name.
Yeah, I just started working for Rich Buckler doing The Fly. And I showed you my pages, and what I was doing, even when I first started at DC, I was so obsessed with the composition of everything that I took my Dean's lettering guide out and did all the lettering in pencil to make sure it was exactly what I wanted it. And you thought I was crazy, and you were right. Because I had, on the Dallas strip, I did pencils, inks, and letters, and so I was, to me, composition is really important. It's where the balloons go. Because later on, it was out of my hands when I was doing other books, and sometimes I would spend a lot of time drawing a panel and having everything composed and imagining where the lettering was. And I remember one time I did a Star Trek panel, and I was from behind Data and his station and his little thing next to him and this and that and some dead space. And the word balloon went right on the little thing next to him, covering up the artwork.
Yes.
Dead space. And so even though I quit doing the Ames lettering guide thing, as per your advice, saved me a lot of time, but I still regret losing some of that control.
Well, when I first got work at Marvel, the way things worked out, I live in a 3-flat Victorian in San Francisco, and we
Wow.
rented out the bottom floor, and Tom Orzechowski moved in downstairs. So I must say I learned all I know about comic book lettering from having Tom Orzechowski as my neighbor. Plus, I got to watch him lettering on so much stuff that went through Marvel Comics, all about word placement, and he did use the Ames lettering guide, but you know, he was anyway. That was a real education for me. So I tend to say I learned all I know about comic book lettering from Tom. Also, I was lucky enough to work with Todd Klein for many, many years, who was another terrific letterer, as we all know. Yes, copy placement is extremely important. I always think there's a particular panel I always flash back on. I was inking an issue of Alpha Flight over Terry Schumacher.
Okay.
And there was so much dialogue. There was a caption explaining what was going on in the panel, but the caption was so large that it covered up the thing that it said it was doing, which you couldn't see what was going on because of the caption. But if they didn't have the caption, you could see what was going on, and then you wouldn't need the caption. I mean, it's mind-boggling. But yes, I know exactly what you mean. So,
Well, we've all seen, like, you know, the first issue of X-Men where the dialogue and captions covered up Magneto entirely.
yes, exactly.
You would think people would learn from that, but we have that issue from time to time where the words in the art is saying the same thing. It's and it's redundant, and yeah. So, but hopefully these guys learn to understand the medium better and allow one of the two to tell the story.
Well, that was one of the.
Was
go
a guy
ahead.
named Lawrence on the Dallas strip, and he wrote for various mediums, television, movies, Ghost and Hardy Boys books, and he really knew word economy and direction for the artist. It was wonderful working with him.
Who was the
Yeah.
writer on that?
Jim Lawrence.
Ah,
And what was interesting is after the Dallas strip ended, we were contacted. There was a priest who had written a series of detective novels with a priest character leading it. And he loved comics, and he wanted to bring this character into comics. Well, even though he was a best-selling novelist, his writing, you had to just edit and edit and edit to get it down. And it was amazing to see, you know, what a talented writer in comics can do in conjunction with the artist versus
I'm just
professional writing.
admiring the intense work up there. But
Wow, Topper's work is amazing. It's huge, Topper. What is that? I missed out. What is
It's
that you're
a
drawing?
Savage Rogue with a T-Rex. He started it out
Wow.
at a penny,
Is that like a?
but now the bid is at $150.
I mean, is that like a
No, really?
16 by 20? It looks like a 16 by 20. No?
That's 11 by 17.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's
very nice.
it's the confidence I can feel your confidence.
I got you, peg leg Pete. I recognize your bid for 150. And there it is. It is corrected. Your bid is in there. Thank you. All right. Still a low bid.
I didn't mean to stop the conversation.
Oh, it's all right by me. Oh, there's always time to stop and look at the pictures.
Yeah, in fact, and we do need to do that. So we haven't shown what Mog is working on, or not, at least not completely. She's trying to cover it up right
Oh no,
now.
I'm not.
She's working on a Jade.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, everybody knows it's Mortal Kombat.
But before that, I did finish this piece. It's sold, but I have this left. I did finish a magic.
Ooh,
Right.
very nice.
Magic rivals.
I do really like those, I must say. So
Wonderful work.
he's one of my favorite characters.
But if anyone's interested, I do have the rough. What I like to do is I like to do a rough before I do something like this. This one's available. I used to not show this to anybody and throw it away, but lately this guy bought 2 or 5 pieces of just these roughs, and he told me to not throw these away. So
No.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, I've been telling her that ever since we met. So, and we've been together for more than 20 years. I would dig through the trash on stuff that she threw away, uncrumple it, and save it.
Never
But she
throw
won't listen to
anything
me,
away.
But she'll listen to a new guy that's telling her this, that is a complete stranger that she's met for the very first time.
Yes, never throw anything away. You'll just set it aside, and a year later you'll look at it and think, oh, that's really not so bad. So
I had some stuff that I did in late high school, and I was at my parents' house because my sister was moving in there, and I threw away a bunch of good artwork. Next thing I know, next year I was doing a signing at a free comic book day in Omaha, and some guy had found the garbage and brought those things for me to sign.
that is creepy.
That was amazingly embarrassing.
But that's also creepy. I mean, somebody
It
went
is.
through your garbage.
But
it is
you
a
know,
little strange.
in the early days of Marvel and DC, before artwork got to be seen as value, I've heard of guys going through the Marvel and DC
Yes.
trash looking
Yes.
for art, and that's how they got some of them.
Well, I mean, sitting in Al Williams' house one day, and I'm sitting on the couch underneath the big fight page where Val gets the singing sword,
yeah,
where he's fighting all the Vikings and they're all falling off into
On the bridge, yes.
Yeah, he pulled that out of a garbage bin.
Yes.
yep.
Gil Kane famously one time went and grabbed a bunch of his artwork and took it home, and then found out they hadn't shot it yet in the stat camera, and he had to bring it back. And, John Romita used to work late at night, and Gil would always kind of be hanging around.
Yes. John Verporten was famous for keeping a tight hand on artwork going in and out of the production office. So that was interesting times.
Yeah, I think Gil would take him on as big as he was.
John was, I think, 6'8". He's even taller than Jim Shooter.
6'8".
That's
Yes.
Big John.
Big John Verporten.
Big John. There's a reason why they called him Big John.
He was very tall.
Yeah, I remember seeing him at the con, and I just couldn't stop. well, first of all, I loved his work, but then when I first saw him, I go, that guy is a giant because I'm only like 5'4". So
And
this
he was
guy's just
very
like,
nice too. So
yeah, he was a really sweet guy and easy to talk to and stuff. And yeah, love talking about his work. And yeah, when I saw his Conan pages, I practically died at how beautiful they were. And that's when I decided it did not need to be inked or colored. It was just good as it was, just like that. But yeah, what an amazing guy, tall, a giant. Yeah,
I must say, as an inker, there are a lot of times when I would think that this really should not be inked, but it was my job to ink it, so
Yeah.
I did.
yeah.
So, I got to work on a lot of Gene Colan pages, which were really beautifully penciled. I mean,
Oh.
just
There's
Stunning.
another. Yeah.
yes. So I
Another-
love
I would freeze some of that stuff and how to handle it.
I did have to stare at it and plan it out and, be very careful and try very hard not to mess it up.
And retain the pencil work that it is.
Yes.
Yeah, not anybody can beat Vince Colletta.
Oh,
Well, I knew a lot of people that were his assistants, so even he wasn't always Vince Colletta,
mm,
if you know what I mean.
yeah.
He had his own background inkers. So
How many did he have?
I think he always probably cycled through them. It was always young guys getting started, needing work, which is a great way to learn. But as they got better, they usually went off and became, getting work on their own, as opposed to being a background inker, which doesn't really pay that much. So,
No, but like, Neil Adams started out on Bat Masterson doing background inks.
yes, exactly.
Everyone starts somewhere.
Neil is a good example because he and Dick Giordano had continuity studios in New York,
Yeah.
and they always took on young artists to work doing things like backgrounds. And a lot of people started as background artists for them, like Klaus Janson started working with Dick Giordano, for example, and so on. So,
That was a good time then when he was putting out his continuity comics. I still remember that, and I still remember the characters that he put out there. I'm hoping that they actually
oh yes,
do something with those characters later on instead of just letting them sit there. But I don't know. We'll see what happens to those.
without Neil, it's hard to say, but I remember Michael Golden and Larry Hama had their Bucky O'Hare, which was a particularly entertaining character. And I don't know if there's any plans for that one, but I know there's a lot of interesting stuff that they've got.
Yeah, there was some good material there. There was definitely good art as well. Neil
Yes.
done a lot of it. So yeah, it was amazing content to have around then. I was definitely interested picking those books up along with all the regular stuff that I was like picking up at that time. I keep telling you, and a lot of independent characters are these Asian girls, right? Like you have you have Kabuki, things like that.
Yes.
But a lot of people forget that in that continuity comics, there was also this one Asian character called Samuri, and so I've
What's
been
her
asking
name?
Samuri, Samuri.
Oh yes.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I keep I've been asking Mog, hey, maybe you should draw that character with a bunch of these other ones, just kind of a little bit of a lineup homage to that independent era, and include that there because that's something that a lot of people don't know about. But anyway, let's go around the room and take a look at what everybody has on the artboards. That way we can get a better look at that. Let's start with Topper, who's working on this page here. Currently has a bid of 150.
Wow, it's certainly coming along.
It's
Wow.
bolts. I see the
Huh.
T-Rex. I see Rogue looking over her shoulder there, looking at it and stuff. And there's a full page. 150 is the current bid on that. If you want to place a bid, we are looking for the next one. You can do so in the comments. Okay. And now let's take a look at Daryl, who's got a couple pieces. Starting with a Hulk headshot. Looking for 25 on this. Very easy, very classic Hulk look.
Wow.
He's big and green.
Yep, big, green, and mean.
It's still the
And
same.
then this double page spread of Fantastic Four
Wow,
with the Hulk in the middle there.
that's nice.
Yeah. It's clobbering time. One of the classic battles in the Marvel Universe. Thing versus Hulk. Who is the winner? Did they ever determine that?
They would always have some interruption.
Yeah.
Whether it was the Hulk turning back into Banner or a landslide coming in between the two, you kind of had to do that. But one thing I learned from that, I was probably 11 years old when the Fantastic Four 25-26 came out.
Mhm.
And at that same time, Spider-Man 11 and 12 came out. And that was where I first realized, because I would see the other Marvel output outside of Ditko and Kirby,
Yeah.
and I realized how much Jack told the story and how much Ditko told the story. Two different approaches, both cinematic, but Ditko's subtle plotting and Jack's power and mixing in the plots, especially at the end of the first issue of the Hulk thing, and the way he built the suspense up to the climax, it just was stunning. And that realized probably for the first time since I was 4 and I saw Alex Toth, the impact of visual storytelling. It was just so evident, that this was nobody telling them what to do. And, it's not a slight on Stan or anything. It's just pointing out that where these stories visually came from. It was amazing. It was such a revelation. And I was pretty immature at 11, but that was something that really impacted me.
It's from my time to growing up, and then all the way through pretty much like the 90s, right? And in the 90s, I had a few comic book stores already, right? But one of the main topics in these shops that I would enter, even including my own, is who is better than who? Wolverine versus the Hulk. We had these were the fun topics to talk about in the store. Even when I was growing up, that classic battle of Hulk versus Thing went back and forth with a group of kids that I hung out with growing up, trying to decide who was the better one and why and so forth. That was all part of the fun of being in comics, reading comics at that time, and enjoyed it all. All right, so there's a question. Did Steve work on Marvel and DC simultaneously, or did he become more or less exclusive at DC when Vertigo came to be? And that's a good run.
I started working at Marvel in 1975, and just the way I see it, I lucked out by being able to work on books that people liked. At a certain point, a lot of the people that I was working with at Marvel all sort of gravitated over to DC. So as a freelancer, I sort of began doing a little bit of work for both companies. And at a certain point, I felt that, suddenly everybody I knew was working at DC. So I just kind of followed them around and fell into working for Vertigo almost by accident. But it was so much fun working on those books that I stayed for 25 years. So, yeah, and then I think the last thing I did for Marvel was in the late 70s when I think Marvel sort of imploded. I think the last thing I worked on was inking a Steve Ditko story, which is, I always thought, a nice way to go out at Marvel. But yeah, I worked on the superhero books a lot, but the fantasy stuff was my favorite to work on. So I ended up staying at Vertigo for a long time. So.
I really liked your work on Infantino because at that
one of my favorite artists as a kid, and so I loved being able to work with Carmine. Although I must admit, it took me a long time to figure out how to ink it because his work was so idiosyncratic. I mean, he had his own strange way of drawing figures, and you had to be careful to not change things too much or it just starts looking really weird. But anyway, I did what I could.
He wanted to be an architect. He always wanted to be an architect, and you can see that.
Yes.
As his evolved toward the end of his life, it was just like architecture. It wasn't really.
Well, I loved his futuristic cities.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, those were beautiful.
All these impressionistic, slashy things. So, but
yeah,
I mean, as a kid, the first comic book artists that I noticed were Gil Kane and Carmine Infantino. We're talking early 60s. And then eventually I became aware of guys like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and Joe Kubert and so on. So that was before.
I'm probably older than you because my first stuff was when I was 4 in the late 50s. In 1957, the first issue of Zorro changed my life because Toth did it. And
I can't imagine seeing Zorro at age 4.
Yeah, that's when it was on. And, back then, there was no streaming, no videotape, no nothing. You had to have your butt up in front of the TV. And then if you missed something, you'd have to wait for the summer reruns.
Right.
And getting a comic book that was revisiting the first episodes, and you could look at it at any time you wanted. It was like having a streaming service. And Toth made the characters give the illusion of movement across the page anyway.
I mean, his stuff was so good.
It was a revelation to me at 4. And I pretty much decided I wanted to do comics then. I had a friend that wanted to be a cowboy. And he just recently had a birthday. He's about my age. And he's still a cowboy. And I'm still an artist. So I thought everybody did that. And then I realized later on growing up, that's not true.
Interesting. 2 different takes on Zorro.
And that was the thing then, because Zorro is kind of like a spin-off on the cowboy themes, which was the big thing during that time. There's like cowboys everywhere on in the TV and the movies. How about you, Topper? What artists were you impressed with early on there that got you into art?
What I still have in my collection is all my Joe Kubert Enemy Aces. I read those, in the 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade. All my Star Spangled War, and then when he did Tarzan, I've got all those still. I've shared this story a couple times. I had pretty much gotten out of comics, and in my senior year in high school, I was sitting next to some kid in a civics class who's got his book open. He's looking at the teacher, and he's got a comic book in his book. And I go, "When you're done with that, can I see it?" And I had bought Conan by Barry Smith when it had first come out with issue 1, and I wasn't impressed. I was just like, oh, this is. I mean, I'd been reading all the books, been devouring the Frazetta covers, and all of a sudden the comic book came out, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is terrible. And then when the book he had in that civics class was Conan 24, the last issue of Conan, that he did, and it was like the light bulb went over my head. It was like the clouds opened up and the angels started singing. It was like, oh my God, this can't be the same guy. I mean, there was design and composition and it was just breathtaking. And I said I wanted to be in the comics right there. And so I went to Youngstown State University, and I met a couple guys who were into comics. And it turns out that Val Mayrick was an alumni from YSU. And so he was coming back to talk to an English class, and a group of us got to go sit in on the class. And I'm sitting there, and afterwards, and I took this little horrible sketchbook from high school, and I was like, "Can you use an apprentice?" And he goes, "Well, sure." And so I started learning from Val. But I mean, I was sitting under a Jeff Jones original, and I've been in love with his work ever since. And he turned me on to not so much the comic guys as much as N.C. Wyeth and Howard Pyle and Schoonover and Mead Schaefer and the Brandywine School of illustrators, Maxfield Parrish. And that took me down another whole rabbit hole of other illustrators and other artists. And then I've been drawing ever since. I mean, Galassi lived down the street. Peter Craig Russell lived in Kent, which was, he lived in New York at the time, but he was from Kent, and he was coming back occasionally. Dan Atkins was, 45 minutes south of us. So there was a lot of people to, influence what I wanted to do.
Yes, actual working comic book people. So
yeah,
I learned more from a working professional in the first 6 hours of watching Val work than I had learned in 2 years of art school. I mean, stuff I still practice today.
Yes.
It just, you can say whatever you want about Val, but, one of the lessons I learned really early from Dick Giordano was pick the worst comic book artist you can think of and look at his work and then figure out what he's doing right, because he's working and you're not.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, those are words to live by. So I've just been trying ever since.
Yes, I got to hang out at Continuity Studios, and I always learned an incredible amount from like 20 minutes of watching Neil Adams do whatever he was doing. It's like, whoa, I never thought to do that. So, but yes, stuff they don't teach in schools.
No.
This was before the Kubert school, but I had to actually talk to Joe Kubert to learn stuff that way.
All right, so Steve V is asking, do most pencilers, if they can't ink their own work, prefer to have a regular inker or enjoy seeing their work with a variety of embellishers? What's your experience on that, guys?
I'd say all pencilers have their own ideas about that. I think Jack Kirby, for example, didn't really care what the inker looked like as long as it looked good when he was finished. Some people I know John Buscema preferred inkers that inked like he inked, but he had every imaginable inker ink his stuff with, I thought, varying degrees of success. But I'd say I do remember I got to ink Steve Ditko, and we knew that, as Steve Ditko put it, he said he didn't want to see inkers who inked like him, because if they were going to ink like him, then he could just do it himself. So he actually liked to see inkers doing something that was different than what he was doing.
Did you ever
Or that
add?
he would have done. Yeah, what?
Did you ever add stuff that the penciler didn't put in?
Yes, but it depended on the job. I mean, sometimes it was full pencils, in which case I would stick as closely to the pencils as I could. For me, the idea was to try to figure out what the penciler had in mind. So, like, for example, I got to work on several different John Buscema jobs, from full pencils where I'd ink it as closely as what he put down as I could, to, I would say, sort of outline layouts where it was up to me to add the shadows and whatnot. So it just did depend on the job. So
Maybe I'm not asking the question right. The
okay.
The example I'm going to give is my second job for DC was for the last issue of Weird War with E. Nelson Bridwell. And I killed myself on this story, and I handed it in, and it went off to the, lettering and inking and coloring. And about 6 months later, I get this, the book finally comes out, and I'm beaming. I'm as proud as I could be. And one of my brothers, who was still in middle school, goes, "Hey, Topper, why did you put that pogo character in this page?" And I'm like, "What?" And sure enough, in the background of these two knights duking it out on, horse jousting on horseback, there's this whole list of people in the background watching. This clown, this guy, inker, puts in pogo.
So do you remember who the inker was?
Oh, I was livid. I went into DC, and apparently he was in the offices, and I was going to beat the shit out of him. I really wanted to kill him. So I was wondering if other inkers just did stuff like that.
I think it depends on the relationship between the penciler and the inker. I know sometimes, for example, Terry Austin would put Popeye into a background, but it generally was not the case that you would toss in something like that. But that is odd.
I mean, I've had good inkers, I've had bad inkers, and it's
Yes,
when an inker can embellish and make you look better, God bless them.
Yeah.
My problem was my first job for the LA Times Syndicate was doing an adaptation of the Dallas TV show. So I did the pencils, inks, and letters, and everything I did for a few years was just what my vision was. And so then when I first went over, I think the first thing I did was for DC was a Western that I inked, got to ink, and then I did the thing for Rich Buckler on The Fly, and Rich inked it, and it was jarring. It wasn't bad. It's just that I had been the artist on everything I did completely, sometimes down to the lettering. And here's all of a sudden, it wasn't bad, but that's not me. And so then I learned that, that's life. And I was fine until I was called up by the DC editor. He wanted to sign me to a contract to do Star Trek Next Generation. And I said, sure, but I hadn't worked with him before. So I said, do you have an inventory job I could work on with you to see how this goes before I sign the contract? And, he said, sure. So he gave me this story that was from the classic Trek, and it had a character, Ensign Savick, who was played by two different actresses in the movies, Kirstie Alley and Robin Curtis. And Robin Curtis was the one they were using. So I went and got the video of the movie she was in, and I killed myself doing really tight, beautiful portraits of Robin Curtis. And when the book came out, the inker just kind of ignored the likeness thing. And I was steamed. I called up the editor and I said, is there a problem with using Robin Curtis's likeness? He goes, oh, no, I said, okay, well, other than that, I enjoyed working with the editor. So I said, I'll do it and you don't have to credit me. I just want to ink the faces of the characters. And he said, well, no, you can't do that. You can audition to be the inker. So I did and got the job. But, you know, just like Topper was saying, he worked really hard on a job, only to have an inker to cavalierly just, you know, poop on it. And it really made you appreciate the other inkers who, even though they didn't have the same vision you did, they were still professional and it looked good.
That is a challenge. I penciled Spider-Woman for a couple of years and had many different inkers, and several of them I really did not like. And in the end, to my way of thinking, the only way to get around that was to ink it myself, which meant sort of twice as much work. And that in itself was a real challenge. But I know exactly what you mean. I mean, there's only so much you can do if the inker's just going to make up stuff. For one example was, I spent a lot of time drawing a motorcycle in a particular scene. And the inker didn't want to ink it, so he just turned it into a plant.
Oh, my God.
It was very annoying.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That seems to be that problem still exists today. That's something where, you know, the penciler is not going to be happy with certain inkers on their work due to the not getting the kind of respect that the artwork needs. I talked to the new guys today, and they still have stories about their pages being inked and not turning out the way that it should be, or, you know, finding blotches of black where there shouldn't be, or
yes, if you can find somebody to work with that is good, you really hold on to them if you can.
Right. Yeah, that's the hard part. So on that note, we're going to take a little break here, and but we'll be right back. We'll review the artwork that we have so far and where the bids are. So don't go away. We'll be right back with our second half.
In a world where you hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, that'd be really great. Thanks. Hey everybody, producer Kyle here. Just a reminder, our Ben 10 #1 exclusives and our Ben 10 #2 exclusives are still available on the explive.com. You can pick these up through our website or through any of the EXP shows that you regularly watch, any of the EXP sales shows. They will have the #1s, and the #2s are exclusive to the website. Go on and check those out. This coming week, if all goes to plan, we will be announcing our Ben 10 #3 exclusive cover, also by Eric Canetti, who did the beautiful cover that you're looking at now. So make sure you're paying attention to all that. Follow us on social media for those announcements, and help support the thing that we're doing, which is making this channel, by buying the things. Thanks. Did you know that Arthur, King of the Britons, in Monty Python and the Holy Grail was played by a famous Graham? Check out another famous Graham by following our Instagram.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Can you see me? Yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the artwork that we have here.
Disappear.
Yeah, he'll get back on here. Let's start with Topper. Let's take a look at that full page of Rogue and the T-Rex there.
What the heck? It just keeps getting.
That has a bit of a currently has a bit of 150.
150, definitely worth that.
Oh, way more than
my
that.
God, worth more than that.
Yeah. It's a lot of work there.
Hey,
All right,
Topper,
let's go to Daryl.
I'm sorry, what?
I say I like to
I
ink that, Top.
Thank you.
You have to, that's ink it.
I'm not inking it.
All right, let's go to Daryl. Let's take a look
Yes.
at the Hulk.
Nice.
Classic. That's your classic Hulk there. Big, mean, and green. And then here's where he picks a fight with the Fantastic Four
Wow.
Wow.
on a double page spread. Fantastic Four sketch cover, beautifully done and colored.
Ah.
So what are you coloring those with? Watercolors or markers? I can't tell.
A mix: watercolor, marker, watercolor pencil,
Hmm.
just mixed media. Like trying to get effects. I did one thing. Maybe I shouldn't do this, but I'm kind of proud of it because no one has ever caught it on their own. But I did a little Jack Kirby tribute. If anyone can spot it, something he did that was in I think an issue of Sergeant Fury where Jack had Sergeant Fury. He had sketched Sergeant Fury holding a sword, wiping his forehead, and another hand coming out from the middle of nowhere. And George Russos inked all three. And so here, when I did this, I thought of Jack, and I did a foot here, a foot there, and an extra Hulk foot here. Just as a tribute to Jack to have three appendages coming out of one figure.
Also, the Hulk varied with 3 or 4 fingers depending on what he was thinking of at the moment.
Exactly. So. I love that. A lot of people see the mistakes and everything, but to me, it was just a testimony to his output, which 1963, I saw the figures one time of the amount of pages he did.
It was phenomenal. Yes.
Fantastic Four Annual 1 came out, which was 72 pages. And then he did all the covers except for what Ditko did. He did fantastic, just about every book except for Spider-Man. And I've never seen that equaled. And the fact that it wasn't just the artwork, he was doing all the storytelling. And it's just, it solidified him as being superhuman in my mind. The one true genius this industry has produced. Doesn't mean, the best artist necessarily, but as far as output of entertainment material, I think he's the only genius this industry has ever produced.
He was one of the real highlights of the early comics cons.
Yeah.
Because he'd be hanging out with people at the pool and just spitballing ideas. I mean, he constantly was saying, what if, and then he'd go off in some cosmic exploration.
In Vegas one time, I had brunch with Ian Ross and Grand, Sunday brunch. And afterwards, we're walking down the hallway, and they had Highlight at the MGM. And he just walked up, picked up a brochure, and he goes, "What if this guy had a bomb and was throwing it? This guy had
Exactly."
He was just constantly going. What I enjoyed, though, mostly was just the stories about World War II and so on.
Yes.
I used one anecdote at my mom's funeral because he was saying when you would go out on patrol, he was in Patton's army. You go out on patrol, and if you didn't have officers with you and you ran into a German patrol that did not have officers with them, no one wanted to die. So they would just yell obscenities at each other and throw rocks. He said somebody always made the mistake of saying something about somebody's mother. Then the shooting would start. And so it was amazing. And I got to see, too, as you guys I'm sure did too, what partners he and Roz were. That we were talking about when he first went to DC from Marvel in 1970, and he was saying that he wanted to write everything, but he wanted to just draw the New Gods, and he wanted Don Heck to do the Forever People, and he wanted Ditko to do Mr. Miracle. And I said, yeah, I thought Ditko would be a good fit for Mr. Miracle.
That would have been real interesting.
And Jack said, yes, he's a fine draftsman. And then Roz goes, but all of his people look Polish. I found when I was around them, you know, I'd say something to see what Jack would think, and then I would hear what the team really thought out of Roz, and it was great. I love that relationship they had, and it really influenced the story.
I want to thanks to Stevie B, because in the comments here he's talking about how he's bought a lot of art, and he's been with us since day one. We're completing, I believe, our 4th year of SketchUp, and getting ready to roll into our 5th year. And Steve's been there from the beginning, buying a lot of our artwork from everybody that we've brought on here. He's already got pieces from Deryl, which he was really impressed with, and from Topper as well. So he's asking Steve if you have any artwork that you want to throw up and make available to be purchased. If you do, feel free to bring that on here.
Anything like
yeah.
I don't have anything just right at hand, but should we do this again? I'll keep that in mind. I mean, I always try to do things for upcoming conventions, a little something to sell. I have a few sketchbooks with drawings that are coming along, old favorites like Howard the Duck and New Mutants or whatever.
There you go. And we'll definitely have you on the show here before the year is over again.
Sure. Just let me know.
And you're jumping ahead of us, but at the end here, I will ask this for your contact information, websites, and everything like that from everybody. So that way, anybody that wants to see the artwork that you have available, support you guys, definitely we'll do that. And see, Stevie B is asking, do you guys prefer to work with editors who have an artistic background, or can work just as well with one who was a writer before becoming an editor? Interesting question.
I would want.
Let's not have Mog answer that question.
Okay.
Well, it's sort of hard to quantify. I've been lucky enough to work with really good editors, but I have found that the ones who knew how to draw were able to give the best advice for me, like working with an editor who knew how to do her own comics, offered excellent advice on pages that I had done that were perhaps not as interesting as they could have been, and like that. But also I worked for many years with Shelley Bond at Vertigo, and she isn't an artist herself, but she certainly knows copy placement and what's working and what isn't working. So as long as you have an editor that can communicate these things with you, it helps. I worked with editors who had no interest in the work whatsoever. Their goal was just, as long as you make the deadline and it gets on the stands. So that can be a challenge as well. They're not as much fun to work with, I must say. But fortunately, I haven't worked with too many of those. So, but
I think I had a lot more respect for an editor when they actually had some kind of art background.
Yes.
As opposed to somebody who just said, "Well, I don't like it, change it." What kind of edit? What is that?
Exactly.
That doesn't help.
But sometimes, though, on a rare occasion, I had editors that were had some artistic background, and that made it worse. Because not just because you have an artistic background doesn't mean that you're good. I realize it's a certain kind of visual sense you have to have, and if you don't have that, then whatever background you have, I don't care. It's terrible.
To me, a lot of it was an age thing. I really enjoyed Dick Giordano, Sal Amendola, and Mike Gold, others like that, because sometimes I would, like at Marvel, you'd see things like I did a story with Storm and the X-Men, and it said in the script, Storm leaves Egypt and goes to Africa. Well, Egypt in Africa.
Mhm.
And on Silver Surfer, there was an after the Infinity Gauntlet thing. And it was page 1, panel 1, tight shot of the Silver Surfer's eyes glowing. Page 1, panel 2, tight shot of his fist engaged in power. Page 1, panel 3, tight shot down Silver. And then just 2 and 3, a spectacular 2-page destruction of Thanos' space station. And I called up the editor and I go, well, we don't have an establishing shot. We don't know what's being blown up. Oh, they can buy the 12-issue maxi series before that. For a 3-page sequence, the rest of the rest of the book had nothing to do with that. And I was told, well, sometimes we get a little close to our work, don't we? And I said, well, I think the reader deserves to know what's going on. And see, I grew up in an era where editors were like Julie Schwartz and Jack Schiff and even Stan Lee. They all had a look. And even though I wouldn't be able to tell you why, if I picked up a Julie Schwartz book, it was a Julie Schwartz book. And by the time I got into the industry, many of the editors were like glorified traffic managers. And they didn't, like in the Silver Surfer story, they had this character walking through a mirror called Master Hate. And I called them up and said, well, we don't have a Master Hate. There's a Mistress Hate. Oh, well, we'll get back to you. And they called back about an hour later. It's been determined that hate can be either male or female, depending on the situation. And it's like, I felt, I'm not an editor. Why do I know this stuff? And they don't, so I wasn't that big of a comic geek, so it was frustrating when you had editors who didn't really care as much about storytelling. That was my big beef, because draftsmanship is one thing and that's always debatable, but storytelling was the core of why we were doing these things. And it was like, I'd hear the voice of Jerry Serbia, colorist at DC. It's only comics. Okay. It was just frustrating. But guys like Dick Giordano were a dream to work with, who did have an artistic background, obviously.
And he knew how to fix anything.
Oh,
if it needed it.
Yeah. Really respected the guy.
So
Going back to the San Diego Comic-Con, because we were talking about, Steve, you had mentioned how you were back there from the early 70s, pretty much from the inception of San Diego Comic-Con. And you've seen how much that has transpired, changed through the decades.
Boy, that's for sure. Yes.
Yeah, that's like 50 years now that we're talking about. This pop icon has grown into the monster that it is. That is a global phenomenon around the world that everybody wants to get to from whatever country that they're in. how do you how does that how do you see all that? Or I'm not exactly sure how to word it, but and I've had this conversation with several of the other people as well. But uh, with you having that perspective from going way back there, how has this uh, like impacted you in a way, or how have you grown through it, and what your thoughts about it are?
Well, it's just it's mind-boggling. I remember a couple of years ago, uh, standing out uh, on the corner in San Diego, looking at the giant convention center. Uh, I was standing there with Bat and Lash, who is no longer with us, but we were both remarking on how amazing it's this, like an entire city has grown up around something that started out with you might say a basement full of comic book nerds. It's just it's really quite amazing, encouraging. We do miss the the small group mindset, and the fact that this thing that everyone has, I mean, the comic book guy from The Simpsons is like the classic image of the old comics mindset, but it's of course now mainstream. It's everywhere. It's
You mean you don't like spending time with
I do like going. I've learned how to
your closest friends.
I've learned how to compartmentalize, you might say, and learn to just, whatever happens is going to happen, and there's no way you can do all of it. San Diego is now like 6 different conventions going on at the same time in the same building. You've got your movie fans, you've got your gamers, illustration fans, people that are into cards, whatever. I mean, there's so much going on that it's impossible to do it all. So at a certain point, you just have to go with the flow, as we used to say. I don't know. I still enjoy it, even if I'm not going this year. So,
How about you, Topper?
God, I mean, like you're saying, the first time we went, you're in a room with maybe 200 people that were all into comics and comic art, and and there was some toys, and by the time, I mean, I went 35 straight years until I moved back here, and
that's a long time,
and it changed a lot. I mean, I remember the first time that the adult industry discovered Comic-Con.
Oh no!
Oh yeah!
Oh yes!
Oh boy! Who's not going to forget that?
I've got a very funny story. So, I'm standing at the very back of the room at that little diner or little food counter.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to do is get a hot dog. I'm starving at that point. And all of a sudden, you start hearing all the noise, and all of a sudden, some woman wearing damn near nothing. This woman was never going to drown in her life. I mean, she was huge, and she goes bopping by us, in this little line of people, and all I heard is "whoa," and I turn around and it's Neil Adams standing behind me. It was just I think of moments like that where I got a chance to meet a lot of my heroes, But
Neil was always very observant.
Yeah. That's being very polite.
That wasn't FitCon, was it?
Oh God, that would be. I don't remember what. I mean, but it was the first. It was like the first time. I mean, in the beginning, I mean, you never saw women in comics. I mean, it was just a complete.
Yeah.
It was a complete guy thing.
It was all guys mainly.
Yeah. And I remember being in Comic-Con at San Diego, and seeing a couple coming towards me, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, that's a very attractive young woman with her boyfriend, and all of a sudden they stopped about 10 tables away and turned to look at something, and all her hair was her bangs. The back of her head was shaved. And it was just like, okay, I'm not in Kansas anymore. But I mean, but the year that the adult industry discovered Comic-Con was like a game changer. And then from that point on, it was like you couldn't get through the room without being ankle hit with some baby stroller, or, you know, it was just it changed so much. And I mean, for good conventions for artists was like Big Wow.
Yeah.
Up in
Yes,
San
yes.
Jose. That was an amazing convention. You know, you got a chance to talk to artists, and you went up there, and it was about comics and comic art. In San Diego, it's not as enjoyable to me anymore. I don't like the big shows where, you know, nobody's spending money at your table because they're all spending $400 to spend 10 seconds with Captain America to get a photo taken with them. You know, all the celebrities just suck all the money out of the energy out of the room. I like smaller shows, more intimate shows where you can talk.
For me, they were all buying the Funko Pop toys that were like 2 aisles away from where I was sitting. Huge lines to buy those. Not that they shouldn't, but things have changed.
Here's a question that Stevie B is asking, and I've actually had this conversation with Mog and some of my other friends that have gone to San Diego for a while. When did the concept of Artist Alley start up at the cons?
It was very early on. San Diego was always very good about allowing.
Was it already in the convention center, or was it before?
I don't remember, actually.
I remember going to a show in Cleveland and seeing an Artist Alley for the first time, and that was in the early 80s.
That was in the early 80s. Huh, interesting.
San Diego.
It wasn't like San Diego.
What?
San Diego always wanted to have tables for artists to be at where they didn't have to pay, which became problematic, and then they did start charging, but still, they had it pretty early on.
It allowed San Diego to make it tax free. I mean, they were promoting by having these artists there that allowed them to write it off on taxes.
Yes.
So they were saying that they're always going to have an Artist Alley. Somebody said when the last Silver Age artist dies, that'll be the end of it. That's just talk. But I think for tax purposes, they have to have something, whether it's Artist Alley, or if you have a room where you have an artist showing kids how to draw, something that's providing a service that they can write off on their taxes.
Because it isn't technically a nonprofit organization, which I don't know quite how they work that, but
it's so not.
There's definitely a profit there somewhere.
It's a total profit, money making.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like the NFL, you know.
But here's my question, like, because now everything to make it as an artist or a vendor, it's all presentation now. And I'm wondering, like back in the days when it started, let's just say from 70s to mid 80s, okay? Mel told me all an artist had to do was just show up, and they would fold a piece of paper and write their name and just sit back. Did they even bring artwork? Like what happened? I want to know what it was like the beginning. How did they do it?
Well, now they make those big banners, which sort of really did change things. The ease of spectacular advertising helps. But yeah, it was pretty low key back in the early days. So.
Yeah, that's what I would remember is that the artist would just fold up a sheet of paper, write their name on it, put it on the table. They'd have a stack of maybe art and art pages on one side, and then they'd have their, something that they're kind of like working on, and could have been Wolverine a lot of times because Wolverine was like really super hot back then, or the Punisher. Definitely, that's what Portacio, Lee, and Williams was working on their table that they had during at that time. Now, before they got into the convention center, you could find those artists around the cons, but it wasn't like in a designated artist alley kind of thing. I remember seeing like Jim and Portacio, they're in the middle of the room out of like nowhere, separated from everybody else, and everybody's just like passing them up. But it was easy to approach them, talk to them, and stuff. So I appreciated that. But then now when we started in the convention center, when it was about a fourth of the size that it is now, because remember they built this in stages, right? So when the very first time when they just had one hall there, that's when I kind of remember seeing like an artist alley, and artist alley during that time was kind of like almost like a dead area because there wasn't that much people paying attention to the art as much. They were still into collecting the comic books and all the other stuff, the toys that were kind of going with it. But I would walk into the artist alley and talk to the artists there. That was still a great time where you had easy access to them, and everybody was friendly during that time. Most of them were anyway. Yeah.
So back then, like, was there any value in art were the artists practically just giving sketches for free? Like, what was happening?
Way back when, yes. I remember there was a time when even Neil Adams was doing free sketches, but that was a very long time ago.
I learned when I was I went to a Detroit Triple Fanfare from Youngstown. So we drove all the way across Ohio into Michigan, and Howard Chaykin was there. And I found out that, everybody would walk up and give him this garbage paper, but I'd walk up with a nice piece of cold press illustration board, and you got a great drawing for free.
Yeah.
I mean, if all of a sudden you cared about the quality of what you're handing an artist to draw on, it made I found it made a difference.
Yeah.
Although I must say, for many years, I had a table next to Sergio Aragones.
Oh, what a fun guy.
At a certain point, he got really annoyed in that he would do a drawing, and by that evening, it would be up on eBay. So at a certain point, even he started to charge so that, he wasn't, people weren't taking an advantage like that. So there's certain protection in charging for your work.
Oddly enough, though, the last couple of years that I was at San Diego, some of the European artists that they'd bring in, like Milo Manera, I mean,
wow.
he showed up, or Mobius showed up, and the first thing I would do when I'd get all the updates for the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con was I'd check out all the PDF files of who was coming, and when I'd see names that I wanted to meet or see, those guys did drawings for free.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, the European artists often did that. Mobius always did drawings for free.
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Mobius?
But you have to remember that was still early on in the con stages. Yeah. But bringing those guys over, like Mobius, Milo Manera, Luis Royo, Chris Achilleos, it was great to see those guys. You would have never thought that we would see them because they're across the pond, as they would say. So to have them there was like a really big treat.
Lopez.
Yeah.
Garcia Lopez. Oh man.
Oh yes.
He even established Gerard. I mean,
Yeah, there you go.
just
Gerard Lopez.
crazy stuff.
Well, I do know that the European concept was that if somebody is going to buy, $100 deluxe edition of your work, then they're happy to do a drawing in the book. So,
Yeah.
which I can understand that.
Yeah.
I do that myself. If somebody comes up with a giant fables compendium, I'm happy to do something in it in appreciation for the fact that they've spent all this money buying the thing. So,
Bohampton does it still.
Yeah. I was gonna say that there's a lot of artists from your era and close to that era, Steve, that do exactly the same thing because that's what they kind of remember. That's what we would do like back in the day. And I'm of that kind of like old school too, where I believe that I don't want to charge for signature. So, and I told Mog that it doesn't matter. I don't think it's going to matter how popular or famous you get. I think the signature should be given free. It's an appreciation for the love and support that you've already given. I don't feel right charging more for something that you're going to get to sign. Now, I know there's a line there, right? You know guys that will bring like a whole box and stuff. And sure, you can deal with that in other ways, whether you put like limits on the amount of signatures that you get, or maybe charge a little bit for those. But to see some of the things that are going on now on how much they charge for signatures doesn't sit right with me. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. This is just with me. It may not be with anybody else.
Steve has a bunch of questions.
Okay.
Did Morgana ever kiss comic creators or just baseball players?
All right, you guys can answer that.
I sure don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Okay. And then Steve is asking, is that a prototype for the Barbie doll behind you, which is a really nice statue?
Oh, I forgot that's clearly visible in the background. It's a clothes dummy with no clothes on it, except for it has a lei on it that I draped around it. But yes, it's. But there are actual Barbies sitting around various shelves around the room behind me. Behind my head, it's a whole shelf full of Wonder Woman figures. A couple of Inkpot Awards, and so on. So.
Right. And his other question is, what is the relationship between comic book artists and comic strip artists? I can imagine that the battle for supremacy has changed over the years.
Well, many of them are the same artists. I think of like Mike Manley and was it Terry Beattie doing comic strips, having migrated from doing comic books to doing comic strips. I mean, it's a similar approach. June Brigman,
Al
and
Williamson.
so on.
Stan Drake.
Yes, exactly.
Me.
Yeah, Daryl has done it. Yeah, and see, Stevie's asking, sorry for feeling like the cub reporter Jimmy Olsen. With all the questions that have been answered, they're good questions. So keep them coming if you have them. Let's go around the room and take a look again at the artwork.
Just admiring that one.
Look at that.
Wow.
That currently still has a bid of
That
150,
is
I believe.
so
Looking for the
cool.
next
That's
one.
looking very nice.
There is Jade. I'm not for auction. Okay, by the way.
You're
But
not
this
auctioning,
piece,
yes.
is here that Mog is working
Oh,
on.
Mel's not for auction.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what are you inking with? What utensils do you use?
I'm just using a Sakura brand.
Okay.
It's a gray one. Micro Perm 05, and then but usually I just ink with microns.
Then you put color over the top of that, and
like in this case, I won't be able to because this ink is actually
Bleeds.
not waterproof. So
okay,
I'm gonna just
that's what
sell it
I was
as-
wondering. Yes.
Like some of them thing I have to actually. That's a good question. I have to remind the viewers like I'm not gonna color this because it's not waterproof. Yeah.
Can
Yes,
you spray something on top of it and then color it?
you could, but I don't want to go that distance. I'd rather just paint it on a separate paper. Unless you pay a lot. Unless you pay a lot for me to treat a paper and then coat it and sand it and coat it, sure, I'll do it.
Okay, there you go. All right, and now let's take a look at Deryl. He has got the Hulk head piece here. This is classic Hulk. Looking for 25. 25. Who's got 25 for this Hulk? And then we've got the big piece where Hulk mixes it up with the Fantastic Four on a double-page spread sketch cover. Who will win, Fantastic Four or the Hulk? As he goes into a classic battle with the Thing.
Fantastic Four.
The Thing. On Yancey Street.
And don't forget the third foot.
And look at the foot there.
Extra feet.
Yeah, no charge for the extra feet. Okay, and there you have it. And next week, I believe we have Ron Rand. I think, no, not Ron Rand. We have Stephen Yu and Philip Ginn that will be back here. We haven't seen them in a while, so we'll be catching up with them. And then after that, we have Ron Randall that's coming on board. Sketch up for the very first time. We'll be checking in with him, what he's been doing, and look at his Trekker series. If you guys are not aware of that, it's a long-running series that he's had since the 90s that started out with Dark Horse, and he now runs that through a Kickstarter. So you're going to want to catch up on that. All that coming up later this month, in the same month as San Diego. And we've been gone for a while, but we'll be here for a while now. So don't go away. Keep watching. And if you haven't yet, hit that follow button so that way you can get caught up on all this and be aware of what's going on. All right. Now, when was the last time anyone used a brush to ink? Did nibs and brushes have anything over today's more technical implements?
That's a very good question.
I use brush pens, but I haven't used a brush and a bottle of ink in forever.
I did. Somebody wrote me from Denmark and wanted some Star Trek headshots. And I just, broke out the sable brush, and it's just really a good feel. I'm very nostalgic about it. That thing where you get the right brush, no split hairs, and you have a big, long, tapered thing to go around. That feel is just really amazing.
Yeah, but
Unless-
aren't there like
Go ahead.
$60 per brush? You're ruining. The Sable Kolinsky, they're about $60.
Well, I still have a lot of my older ones. The older ones hold up. I found that materials, I just had to recently buy a bunch of kneaded erasers, and they used to last forever. Now they're just, like after a week, you got to throw them away.
Yeah,
They get
Same.
hard. And
yeah.
I still have the first sable brush I ever bought, 1974.
Wow. Still works, huh?
It's got a beautiful point. I found real early on, I found this little book at a bookstore on stupid. I mean, it was kind of like, stupid things illustrators and artists can use to save things. And one of the secrets was how to keep a point on a brush once it splits. And it was like, okay, let's try this. Because, at that point, my brush was splitting. And you take a paper cup, you take some paper or some tape, you make like a cross on the tape, you put a hole in the center of the tape, and you wash out your brush, and then you take some Elmer's glue. And then you just keep rubbing it into the bristles till it's a point, and then you stick it into the hole in the paper cup, and you let it dry. And after a day, you go with warm water, wash out the glue, and you've got a point again. And that got me through about 10 brushes that I still use today when I use them.
Wow. I've never tried that.
And it was in a stupid little book, that Secret Tricks for Artists.
Yeah, I found a thing where when I take my brushes to conventions, I take a plastic water bottle and cut the big end off, and I have a thing that I got in 1971 where when I do my watercolors at conventions, it's got a wire thing at the top. It holds your brushes in the water. And then when I'm done, I just take them and drop them through the big end of the plastic water bottle, and the handles come out the small end, and you pull tight, and you've got this plastic protection around your brushes. So you put them in a case and nothing hits them.
Yeah, that I actually saw Daryl at one of the cons, and he showed that to me, and I thought that was really cool because up to this point, I was finding like different sizes of straws to put the brushes through to protect them that way. So that's a whole lot better. Less scavenging time for sure.
Yeah. You
Well,
live long
for me,
enough.
go ahead. Oh, I was going to say for me, I always used the sable brushes, and many years ago I bought a huge supply of them, and they're just now beginning to run out, like after 20 years. But I tend to do my actual comic book work with real brushes, but at conventions I'll use the brush pens, which also work really well. I just use a simple Pentel brush pen, and it keeps a really good point. I don't know if they're waterproof or not, but so at conventions I use the brush pens. At home I use an actual brush with real ink. So
What ink do you use? What brand?
that is a challenge because these days none of them seem to be all that great, but generally I use the Higgins Black Magic ink. Been trying various ones, but
That's
You know,
none of them are really like they used to be.
Jay Lee, he always used only Kolinsky sable
Yes,
and
yes.
ink. And he keeps always telling me every time. I still didn't buy it, but Winsor Newton waterproof black ink.
A trick I learned from Val Merrick a million years ago was he would buy a bottle of ink and then take off the stopper, put in a pan of water over a stove, and put the bottle of ink with opened up, and it would and you just heat up the water, and it evaporated all the water out of the ink because he wanted his inks black.
Mm.
And that was like, okay, that makes sense.
That's smart.
That was the sort of thing I picked up from people that worked with Wally Wood and so on, that they would just leave the ink bottle open all the times to let it sort of evaporate out and be, well, a little thicker in those days. I don't know if that still would work, but all sorts of ways to make the ink better for comic book inking anyway. So it's tricky.
Wally could use any kind of ink, I imagine, though.
Yes.
It's so gorgeous. I think one of the great crimes against comics was when Jack Kirby went over to do the Fourth World Series. Wally Wood volunteered to ink it all.
Wow. That would have been something.
Turned down in favor of Vinnie Coletta. I just... Can you imagine what that would have looked like? His Jack Kirby Superman inked by Wally Wood. And Big Barda inked by Wally Wood. To quote the guy, Neil Adams, at the first adult actress at San Diego, wow.
Wow.
I think Stevie asked a interesting question about which now deceased artist do you wish you had a chance to collaborate with?
Hal Foster.
Okay.
I would have just been happy just to ink the little black spots he needed filling in the background. But certainly, I'm certainly not under any. I wasn't of his level, but
how about you guys, Daryl, Steve?
Well, I don't know if he bored you. I guess Ditko. I was very, very fortunate indeed. I never had any contact with him directly, but when I auditioned to do the Blue Beetle at DC, I heard they had bought all the Charlton characters, and I loved Ditko's Blue Beetle. I wrote up a proposal for it and did about 8 pages, and I took it to Dick Giordano, and he said, "Well, we already have writers, but you can audition to be the artist." And I went through a couple of rounds, and when it came down to it, it was Paris Cullins and myself, and we had won the job at DC, but they took the stuff to Ditko, and along with others, and Ditko picked my stuff, and that was just
Wow, that's nice.
And I got a call. I got a call from Giordano and Solomon Dola's assistant, and then afterwards, I got a call again from Solomon Dola, who said, "I hope you realize what a big deal that is." And I said, "I certainly do." Having grown up with Ditko, he was a huge influence. Again, like Kirby, not just because of his artistic prowess, but storytelling and plotting. It just was amazing. And so that was quite a compliment.
Fantastic.
I must admit, after having drawn comics for many years, my appreciation for the work of Ditko and Kirby has only grown. I mean, Ditko's ability to lay out a page really simply and make it work is just phenomenal. Characters, I mean, like Spider-Man is doing his thing through the pages, and it's all extremely clear storytelling with just do a few lines, all you need for a background. It's just great storytelling. So.
Yeah, my wife, when I was doing comics, wasn't really into it. And so when I would do pages, I would take them to her and say, "Tell me what's going on here." And if she, who wasn't really into comics, could tell me what was going on, I knew I was successful. And that's lessons I gleaned from Ditko as well growing up.
I have a question for the group. Has there ever been anybody that you wanted to meet that you've never met, that a hero of yours that you wanted to meet and it just never happened?
I must admit, I was lucky enough to meet a lot of people, and aside from the ones who were no longer with us, one of my regrets was I was a big fan of the artist Howie Post, and I was up at Marvel one time, and they were closing, and then there was just one little old guy sitting in the corner drawing strawberry shortcake, and I didn't think anything of it and left, and it turned out it was Howie Post, who was just minding his own business, sitting over there drawing. But Howie Post in the 40s drew like Walt Kelly, even before Walt Kelly was drawing like that, with this fabulous brushwork and really broad, beautiful cartoony stuff.
Anthro.
Anyway, so that's just one example of, but one of the things I liked the most about being an inker was I was able to, and I told Jim Shooter this, that I wanted to ink, I would ink anyone over 50, because that was my idea of old back when I started. So I got to ink all of my favorite artists. I got to ink John Buscema, Sal Buscema, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, Carmine Infantino, Gil Kane, even Joe Kubert once. So I feel I'm very fortunate in that department. Also going to San Diego Con, getting to meet all sorts of, well, personal heroes like Milton Caniff or Noel Sickles, who I didn't quite meet, but nonetheless, he was there. But so very many opportunities to meet some of my favorite artists. Well, Mobius, Jean-Claude Messières, Hugo Pratt, and so on. But I consider myself very lucky in that department.
Yeah, just being the right age, you know, I got to meet, like, except for Ditko, Gene Colan, Jerry Robinson, and they have meaningful conversations with these guys.
Yes,
who
yeah.
put up with it. Because of some of my background in Vegas and the entertainment magazine stuff I did, I got to meet a lot of, you know, the big stars in Vegas. And it didn't ever get blasé, but it was not that big of a deal compared to meeting and spending time with Jack Kirby and getting to talk with Gene Colan and Kurt Schaffenberger. Incredibly underrated guy, I think.
Always loved his work.
Yeah, I mean, the guys in the know who he is, yes. But I mean, he wasn't really widely known, and his stuff was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I felt bad when he wasn't inking his own work anymore, because he knew what to do.
One of my, for me, even though I've had a chance to meet a lot of creators since I was going to the con kind of early on in the mid 80s, but one guy that I do regret is Bill Everett, and because of the work that he did on the Submariner, and you know, being from Hawaii, I tended to like these things that were characters that are
aquatic based one.
Yeah, you know, Submariner, Silver Surfer, these guys I could relate to with things that are in Hawaii, and so yeah, I caught on to Submariner pretty early and loved the work that he did on there. And when he passed away early on there, I felt that I did feel a loss, you know, because he was, you know, I was going, wow, who's going to do Submariner now, you know? So yeah, there's that.
I would have liked to have met him myself, so which I did not. So
yeah.
We have to.
But anyway, we're way over time.
okay.
Having like too much fun talking with you guys. We'll definitely do this again. Thank you, everybody, for coming on and being here with us. And we'll definitely have you guys come back again.
Don't forget
thank
to
you for inviting
me.
me.
Plugs.
All right. So if you are the winner, make sure you fill out the form on the page, and so that we know how to get this artwork to you from Topper. And be sure to join us again. We'll have another round of sketch up on Thursday, and we hope to see you guys there and teach you know. Okay. And if you can give us a plug on your website so I know how they can find you, starting with Topper.
I don't have a website anemiore. I let it go.
All right. Find Topper. Daryl.
Neither do I. So
Steve.
Skeltonartist.com.
Okay. How can they find you, Steve?
I am on Facebook.
There you go.
I post new art every day.
All right.
I'm on
How about you,
Facebook.
Steve?
So
Yeah,
Okay, there you go.
Facebook.
There you
yes,
go. Hey, you know what? I'm on Facebook too. Okay. Thank you guys. You guys have a wonderful evening. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.